We're working on it. Hi all. First, a huge thanks to everyone who has picked up the game. Releasing a game for y'all is a humbling experience, to say the least. So there are some bugs. Yes, we see the posts. We're working on a patch right now that we expect to release Monday or tomorrow. We are in it for the long haul when it comes to security breach. This game has a bright future ahead of it. So they're not leaving it in the dust. That's great. I don't want to rip on the devs because obviously time was tight and they're committed to working on fixes. I'm also not here to complain about simple bugs or performance issues. Those are way outside my scope of understanding. However, this game was not playtested. I'm about to show you a bunch of things that would never have slipped through the cracks if the game would have had any sort of proper playtest. In addition, I'll offer potential solutions to these problems, so it's not just me sitting here complaining. These are all things that we found as a speedrun community within hours of launch, and none of these have been fixed in the day 1 or day 2 patches. I want this video to set expectations of changes that we want to see, and keep them accountable for their little forum post they made. You made a pretty cool game, Steelwool. Just, maybe hire a couple of us speedrunners to break your game before launch, so you can release something that fully functions. If you ever get sick of hearing Chica's same 5 voice lines over and over and decide to lower your voice volume all the way down, you might notice that cutscenes completely break down. Freddy no longer chats with himself in the mirror at the start, no longer tells you his plan to escape, explains what the security console does, or anything. With the exception of movie-type cutscenes, which are kinda just awkward stare-downs. But that's not all. Any sequence that involves chat prior to an event happening breaks. For example, after the medbay, you'd normally get upstairs and Freddy's battery would die, so he'd eject you. But with voice volume muted, the game jumps ahead and his battery dies almost immediately after you get inside of him. So for the whole walk, you just have low battery flashing on your screen with no effect. I don't have any big brain solutions to this one. Maybe find that one line of code that ties game sequence to volume and axe it? Do whatever every other game has done to prevent this from happening. Come on. If you start the game and just don't bother saving, because most modern games have autosaves, and end up dying before you decide to save for the first time, the game will draw upon a save file of a different playthrough if you had completed one. So you could finish the game and start anew, confident that you don't need any saves at the start, then when you accidentally die, end up right back at the end of the game. Also, if you do this on your first playthrough, you might get sent back to the beginning, but more than likely you'll just be sent out of bounds somewhere. Very screwed until you load into a room you're not supposed to be in, and be even more screwed. Honestly, the game could really use a couple autosaves. The save system of this game is reminiscent of Alien Isolation, where you must brave the dangers behind you to slowly manually save at station. Except the difference is that Alien actually has a lot of autosaves in addition to this. To my knowledge, Security Breach's only autosave is when Vanessa gives you timeouts in the lobby. It doesn't make manual saving obsolete when you add autosaves at key areas, but it really does help the flow of the game. This one blows my mind more than anything else in the game. Security Breach can be absolutely brought to its knees and destroyed with one press of the spacebar. The game requires you to get in and out of Freddy constantly, so players will do this many times in their playthrough. So either there was zero playtesting, or nobody ever tried simultaneously jumping and entering Freddy, because if you just jump and press E to enter Freddy at any point in the game, the entire game unloads around you. No walls, no enemies, just you and whatever assets remain permanent. You can go anywhere you want in the game like this. Eventually the game will succeed in reloading you into the level, at a speed that depends on your hardware. But if you were trying to go somewhere, all you gotta do is repeat the process. One spacebar press and you're back into the void. How in the flying fuck was this missed? There's a super easy solution here. If you could get in and out of Freddy without bugs, how about just copy and paste whatever makes that work into a situation where you jump as well? I've seen some broken elements of games before, but what? Literally anyone can do this, at any time. While this is banned in most speedruns because it's hardware reliant how quickly you reload back into the game, We do have an unrestricted category for it, and yeah, they beat the game pretty quickly. Someone playing the game, maybe panic running to Freddy, might totally jump towards him while entering, and would be met with what they assume is a broken game. The complaints are valid. We love the game, but come on, we just want to jump without fear of destroying this thing. Speaking of jumping, let's talk about the animatronic's AI for a bit here. It's absolute trash, and being able to step onto any mildly elevated surface and having them totally lose sight of you breaks the scary game immersion pretty hard. My problem isn't with the basic AI, it's with the elevated surfaces. Jump on anything, and not only can they not kill you, but they totally lose sight of you. Their vision doesn't extend off the ground, so despite them being inches from your face, they'll just turn around and feck off. I'm not going to suggest revamping the entire AI because it's obviously got enough band-aids on it already with the ridiculous teleport solution to pathfinding. But I just wish they could still see you when you stood on something elevated. Okay, fine, they can't kill you while you're up here, but what if they could still see you? Having them trap you on whatever platform you're standing on would maintain some semblance of danger, since they would be ready to again chase you as soon as you dropped off. You don't have to change everything about the AI to make them less incredibly stupid. I also have a more radical solution, which would apply to a few of these problems, which I would never seriously recommend, but I want to mention anyway. What if you just couldn't jump? As far as I've seen, it's barely required anywhere. I don't actually want this, but you built a game that can be destroyed by pressing the spacebar once, while making it almost totally unnecessary to progress as intended. So why didn't you just not do that? Gonna speedrun a few before one last big problem. Damaged Freddy literally never disappears here, and the room remains completely accessible through the rest of the playthrough, so you can visit Broken Freddy to your heart's content and also bring the other Freddy. Just delete that model after the cutscene it's used for is over, please. In the daycare, Moonman prioritizes cans over the player completely. This might actually be intended, but if it is, why? Most of the barriers in the game are so easy to jump over, it made me very unsure if I was intended to do that or not, which only led to further confusion about what the hell the game wanted me to do. But apparently that's being fixed. To add on to this, there's no safeguards that prevent players from using these barriers to skip massive portions of the game. See my speedrun, which is outdated but still shows the tricks, for how easily you can skip to the end of the game without even Freddy unloads. As much as I hate invisible walls in games, they serve a purpose. Cameras, which are the #1 staple of FNAF gameplay, are rendered pretty much useless in this game. You can use them, but you really don't have to. Ever. A solution my roommate considered, which would solve both this and the lack of the direction the game gives players, would be to add little trails that could only be seen on camera that would lead players towards their objective. Both solving the issue of literally everyone getting lost and making the cameras useful. Watching Markiplier's episode 2 of his playthrough was a perfect example of this, where the entire episode takes place in this laundry room that had like 10 doors with exit signs that he couldn't go through, and one well-hidden, obscure opening that he spent 45 minutes finding. Putting like footsteps or something on this camera angle would have been super cool and immersive, and also made him enjoy the game a little bit more, I have to imagine. And our final playtest failure. Freddy can open every single door in the game. How did you miss this? You gave the player this big hunk of metal they could call to their exact standing position that will open any door in the game for them. Some will have invisible walls preventing you from walking through, but that isn't anything a quick ingest into Freddy and dump out the other side can't fix. Just, come on! Pretty sure this must be a side effect of Freddy's AI being copy-pasted from the other animatronics. Except it makes a little bit more sense that the others can do this, because we can't just walk up to them and through the door they're holding for us. Ha, you thought it was over? You think the game had enough of me? Wrong, I got more. Both Freddy and enemy animatronics use a teleport system to get close to your location to kill you or to help you. But these teleports are not limited to where the player is allowed, so they will spawn out of bounds and not be able to reach you. Why is this allowed? Why is Freddy on the wrong side of this wall? How complicated can it
By pressing the flashing connectors.
Damn, this is complicated. Which was it? Oh my god, no! I couldn't do a fucking 4-color sequence.